and she will set the scene for the plenary that will just follow this on fake news. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me clearly, better than this morning. Yes. I'm coming from the Council of Europe, and I will just be giving you a brief overview of the question of innovative technology and the impact on democracy and human rights. Let me first thank very much the host, EuroDiG. The Council of Europe has been supporting EuroDiG since its inception in 2008 in Strasbourg. Committed as we are to a regularly multi-stakeholder and pan-European dialogue on internet governance issues, which have taken up and continue to take up an ever-growing place in our organization's activities. Indeed, for an organization like ours, born 70 years ago to protect democracy, rule of law, and human rights, the speed of technological evolution has clearly been a challenge. Maintaining a dialogue on it with all the stakeholders, be they states, businesses, civil society, academia, and other international partners, is a must. Techno-optimism has accompanied us for a number of years. The unprecedented benefits of the internet for connecting people, empowering them, informing them, engaging them in democratic governance through direct participation seem to know no borders. Today, we are aware that digital evolution does not only bring opportunities, but also challenges. And these affect us all in a very interconnected way. And let me tell you from the Council of Europe point of view how they affect our three main pillars: democracy, rule of law, and human rights. Starting with democracy. In a society where data has become such an asset, you're probably familiar with Yuval Harari's recent book, Homo Deus. The combination of big data concentrated in the hands of few and the explosion of self-learning algorithms may have indeed enormous impact, not only on democratic institutions, but on democracy per se, as Mr. Harari seems to suggest. From our point of view, the viability of technology, like democracy, depends on justice, its practice, and the enforcement of limits of power. This is particularly true in the case of elections. An increasingly aggressive use of technology to micro-target specific categories of voters and the well-known phenomenon of filter bubbles are just examples of how fairness and legitimacy of entire electoral processes may bear risk. We heard this morning from Commissioner Gabriel how we can already see that trust is eroding in users of internet when it comes to their engagement in the political sphere. A recent Council of Europe study on internet and electoral campaigns draws the attention to the inability of current regulatory frameworks to level the playing field, for instance, when it comes to political contests, and to limit the role of money in elections, because they mostly do not apply to social media. The study recommends setting standards with regards to message targeting and a number of other areas. So this is an area where Council of Europe may want to get engaged. But of course, regulations will not help when it comes to ensuring that ordinary citizens participate in a well-informed and active way in the digital technology. To this effect, the Council of Europe is working on a program called Digital Citizenship Education, designed to develop specific competencies to empower pupils to engage positively, critically, and competently in the digital environment. And finally, when it comes to democracy, this also means ensuring that users can master the data they generate, notably for self-expression, in the areas of culture, for instance. But it also means that those that want to remain unscrutable can remain so. And Council of Europe has a recommendation that covers the right to remain unscrutable. Now turning to the challenges of the rule of law. The solidity of our offline democracies rests on the rule of law and on equality before the law. However, when electronic evidence is stored on data centers owned by companies that are registered abroad, and justice systems increasingly use algorithms for more efficiency, bias is embedded in training data of those algorithms, then both principles risk being compromised. Council of Europe has an important number of standards in this area. Let me just mention a few. First of all, our Budapest Convention, the Cybercrime Convention. We have 57 member states that adhere to it, including the US and Canada. And a draft additional protocol has been prepared to deal with enhanced international cooperation to cover specific solutions regarding more effective mutual legal assistance, including direct cooperation with service providers in other jurisdictions than of the membership, and rules for practices of transborder access to data while safeguarding data protection requirements. Another example is in the fight against terrorism, where our Committee on Counterterrorism, an intergovernmental body, is providing a platform for exchanges of best practice and the formulation of soft law instruments to coordinate action against terrorism. Finally, in the area of justice, the European Commission for the Efficiency of Justice is examining challenges and preparing recommendations related to the use of machine learning algorithms in the justice system. Let me now tackle what is probably the most affected areas, that is human rights, as they're protected by our Convention of Human Rights, which I recall is an international instrument with a court mechanism, a supervisory mechanism. Certainly in this area that the impact is mostly felt. All human rights are impacted. Again, a recent study of the Council of Europe on the human rights dimensions of algorithms, December last year, points out the fact that public debate on the multiple human rights dimensions of algorithms is lagging behind technological evolution and must be strengthened rapidly to ensure that human rights and interests of individuals are effectively and sustainably safeguarded in line with the values of our Convention. This concerns particularly, for instance, the use of artificial intelligence prone to amplify sexist, racist, and homophobic biases on the offline world, but also when algorithms may have inbuilt biases that systematically discriminate groups in society. And this can be done through direct discrimination and indirect discrimination. We have at the Council of Europe important policy recommendations issued by our Commission against racism and intolerance, concerning, for instance, the recommendations on how to fight hate speech online, addressed both to states and intermediaries. And we're also working on a new recommendation on sexism online. Attention also should be placed on the right to privacy, fundamental right covered by our Convention. Here, Council of Europe possesses a very, very effective instrument, Convention 108, as we call it, for the protection of individuals with regard to automatic processing of personal data. 51 member states are members, and it was recently amended to strengthen the rights of the data subject in the digital age. New right of individuals not to be subjected to automated decisions that affect them without having been consulted is part of the updating. Another important area where we are very active is children's rights. Today's children are huge data providers, mostly unwillingly and unknowingly. The information they share can be used for profiling purposes and can compromise their exercise of their rights. Council of Europe has elaborated a clear set of guidelines to respect, protect those rights in the digital environment, which has been elaborated with also the consultation of private actors. Another very important right, freedom of expression, which of course includes also the freedom to information, is of course at stake. This is one of the first formulated human rights considered key for individual dignity. It allows individuals to demand access to all other rights. It is therefore for us a cornerstone of democratic societies, because we want to have engaged and well-informed electorates that hold governments to account. Is this working today? I think we will have a chance to explore that in the session that is just going to follow me. Let me, for the moment, give you some preliminary conclusions based on the work so far engaged by the Council of Europe. We believe that the discussions around these issues should not be led by panic or doomsday, but should be a reasoned and facts-based debate. And we should maybe take inspiration from Kant's famous motto, sapere aude, have the courage to use one's reasoning. Very important in this moment. And also have the courage of using the Council of Europe for its unique convening power, 47 member states, and unique capability of setting standards that unify a legal space around Europe. And also, of course, have the courage of continue the dialogue with businesses, with different platforms, civil society, and academia. Why? Because we need to avoid creating parallel standards that would be issuing from the industries and standards that could be issued from the international organizations. Whatever we agree on should be done in concert with a common purpose, because the stakes are too high to allow for parallel standards. And of course, they must be based on internationally agreed norms and regulations. The Council of Europe is more than ready to engage in this field, and as you will see from the work of my colleagues in the different meetings, we are of course also seeking to partner with all of you in this endeavor. Thank you very much.